America Online was a big thing when I was 13, or in other words, for my generation, AIM, which stood for, you guessed it, AOL, Instant Messenger. It was around 2002, and I would have been a fresh 13 in 8th grade. I had many times went into chat rooms by myself, or with friends goofing around. Unfortunately, unsolicited photos were a thing then too, but usually you could stay clear of it by the chat room you entered. I didn't have any photos of myself, and back when you had to take a digital photo and upload it from your camera, that was when I did. Plus I was 13 and self-conscious, which I'm sure anyone can relate with. But one day, a guy popped up on my screen, wanting to chat. It went fine at first. I was very naive back then, and we quickly fell into a pattern of talking. His name was Dave, and lived in California. Eventually him telling me he loved me, etc. But the problem was he was 19. Now I wasn't proud of this, but at first, being 13, I just sent pictures of some random girl and said it was me. He instantly fell for me, telling me age is just a number and how mature I was. Now at this point, he did not live in state, so there was never any chance of us meeting. Eventually, he told me he and his mom were moving up to a city that was about an hour and a half away from me. He started begging me to see him and go to a movie, anything. I had to break the catfishing truth and say those were not pictures of me, but of someone else. He was furious. He had been looking forward to a different type of child this whole time. Dave forgave me a few days later, saying, "I still want to meet you because I love you." All the things you say to a young girl to get her to swoon. I think back and I'm like, wow, I was 13. So I told my best friend everything. I just explained above, and that I wanted her to go with me to meet him. There was a whole plan about him driving to see me, going to the movies to finally meet what I thought was the love of my life. I had been brainwashed into believing this was normal. I didn't tell my mom, of course, and honestly, she didn't notice any of it. It was going on to begin with. So the day my friend and I were going to meet up with Dave, her mom came and picked us up from school. She said something that made my stomach drop into nothingness. She said, "Chrissy, you're not going to the movies. You're not going to meet that man. You're going to get seriously hurt or kidnapped, and I can't allow you guys to go." I cried and cried, because honestly, I thought I could handle everything and be fine. She told me she wasn't going to tell my mom. I had to promise to never speak to him again, and never plan to meet a stranger online. He ended up showing up and was upset I wasn't there. He went on AIM flying off the handle like I hadn't seen at that age. It scared me. It scared me how close I was to this man being near me. I never talked to Dave again, but I easily believe if I would have been kidnapped or worse that day if my best friend's mom hadn't stepped in. My mom would have been none the wiser. I was none the wiser, but I'm here today and learned a dire lesson. And after this, let's not meet again. The title is a little bit dramatic, but I had no idea what to call it. So I was in grade 9 at a really shitty school. The system there sucked, and it was located in a dangerous area of the city I lived in. I actually just remembered the story because it was so usual for things like this to happen there, that for me it was just normal, so I forgot it. But looking back at it, now I realize that it's not normal. So I was in PE class, and we were running laps around the school on a sidewalk to stretch. I was with my friend group of 5 girls, and we were walking behind as always because PE for us was talking about the school drama all period. So we were walking and talking about the recent drama when a red truck slowed down beside us. It wasn't unusual. Every time we were walking outside of the school, a creepy man would slow down. So we didn't really think anything of it, and just kept walking and ignoring him. We saw his truck 2 or 3 times more. He was driving around the school and slowing down every time he passed by us. So we decided to tell our gym teacher, and result, he made us go back into the gym. We started playing whatever game we were doing. When the teacher came to me and told me I was asked to the main office because someone was here to pick me up, I was panicking because no one was supposed to pick me up during class that day. And I thought that maybe something bad happened to either my mom or my dad or someone in my family. So I got changed into my normal clothes, grabbed my backpack, and rushed to the office. When I got there, a lady told me that there was a man waiting for me outside of the main doors. I got a little confused because usually when my parents come to pick me up, They'd wait in the hall until I got there. I took a look through the glass door and saw an old man. I had never seen this man once in my life. I quickly walked back to the office and told the lady that I didn't know him, and what she told me next froze me. She told me he said he was a friend of my parent and that they asked him to pick me up because my mother got into a car accident. He told the lady my name and my last name, my age, my mom's name, and the grade I was in. I was shocked immediately, asked her if I could call my parents to confirm. So I called my dad, and he told me my mom was just fine and he was at work. The lady just told me to go back to class, and I never saw that man again. I never knew what happened after I left, and how did he know all that information about me? My parents talked to the cops about this, and there was never anything. We never had answers. Since that happened, I moved into a much safer city and hope I'll never see this man again. This story starts back in 2017, when my boyfriend and I started living together. Rent in our country has been really high for years, so after looking for a long while, we decided to emigrate. Our college is very close to the border between our home country and the neighboring country, and in the neighboring country, the rents are way lower. After a few months, we found an apartment. It used to be the old hay attic of a farm, but a rich couple, the landlord, turned the attic into an apartment years ago and turned the rest of the house into a home for themselves. We loved that place and signed the rental agreement and moved in September of 2017. At first, all was great. We liked our landlord and his wife, even though they were a bit eccentric. But after a while, things became less comfortable. The landlord would blast loud music at all hours of the night. If he asked him to fix something, he would show up at 2 a.m. He constantly bragged about how he kicked out the precious tenants after they told him that the rent was too high. When rats infested our roof/ceiling and created holes that went straight outside, he'd use expanding foam to kill them, trapping the rats in the process, which led them to dying and decomposing in the ceiling. And most importantly, he would knock on our door for minutes on end, and if we didn't answer, he would stand underneath our window and yell our names, like he knew we were there, but ignoring him. Once he even got into the apartment without permission. I got home and was sweaty as hell, so I walked straight into the bathroom, which was located on the left side of the entrance. When I came out, wrapped in a towel, and walked towards the living room, he suddenly came through the front door. I asked him what he was doing here, and he told me he left his key in our house after a visit, even though he used that key to get in. The last points finally clicked when we moved out. The landlord was about to move to Poland, and the new landlord was a dick, so we decided to move out. We told him about it, and he said, "Well, can you give me back my camera then?" We thought he was joking, but after he left, we suddenly felt so weird about it, so we checked. The apartment had a very high pointed ceiling, so we had to use a ladder. But there, on that high horizontal beam, we found a small camera, pointed at our living room. I think I still have the video somewhere of my boyfriend cutting the wire. All of a sudden, the cam network we saw on the Wi-Fi list on our phones was gone as well. We moved out and thought about pressing charges, but this man had a great lawyer and was long gone by then. I really do need to say, landlord, let's not meet again. As recently one of our new neighbors told us a man called, which happened to be the name of our landlord, was in our street looking for us. This is a very spotty memory from my childhood, but I remember enough to still be freaked out every time I think about it. I was very young, probably around the age of 5, and my family and I were at the public pool that day. We went quite often when I was younger. I don't remember how this interaction came about, but I remember talking to a woman who looked relatively young, around 25 to 30, asking me what my address was. I'm not sure why I know my address, but I remember reciting my home address to this random woman at the pool. In my little kid mind, this was a completely normal conversation, so I had no reason not to tell her. Naturally, I returned the question to her. Her response was 123 Toad Lane. I had no reason at this age, so in my head, this was a completely valid address. I don't remember what she said after that, but I remember my parents pulling me away eventually. Thank God, what the fuck? And never thinking anything of it until years later. Thankfully, nothing ever came of it, as far as I know, but it's still so weird knowing that some lady I literally had never met was asking a child for their address. I have so many questions about it looking back, Why did she want to know my address? Did she plan to do anything with that information? Was somebody else going to get her to ask? Well, I was probably never going to get the answer to any of those questions. I'm just glad that my naivety as a child didn't cost me any harm. To the lady at the pool who asked for my address, let's not meet ever again. Edit, it was a public pool, paid access, so no reason for her to ask for my address. Also, there's no Toad Lane anywhere near my hometown. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. As always, stay depraved.